going on in the week, what's the feeling on Brexit, and the New Zealand killing, and the fact that the Aussie a politician came out to say it was because of Islam coming into the West and people feeling in danger because of the amount of attacks and attacks and attacks. Of course, now people are asking him to resign and step down, because you could say this if it was the other way around. People have often said it after Muslim attacks. People have often blamed the white wing, and that's okay to blame the white wing. But, you know, to blame Muslims, there's an outrage because they don't like that being done. So how are you, Eileen, this week? And what's your feeling on what's going on and in the world, and the New Zealand and the Brexit and her going forward and backwards trying to get a deal and not getting a deal? And
well, New Zealand, first of all, I don't fully buy it, and I'm glad to see that a lot of people believe it was a false flag, and people are not. I think global media is coming. Some people are. It's dying, you know. There's too many coincidences and Twitter accounts added, and you know, now they want to bring out they have gun laws, I think, in New Zealand. They want to remove maybe the guns, and you know, there's too many. And then the next thing, there'll be an attack on a Christian church, and it's all divide and conquer. That's the way I feel. So I think we're being totally manipulated. And when something's all over the world like that, like it's on every channel, on every news radio, you can be sure that there's some manipulation, because they own it all. The people who run the world, you know, they own it all.
They've put out they've put Gardaí on mosques, in the two main mosques in Dublin, because of the attack. Like, it's completely, I tell you what it's going to be about. There will be an incitement hate now and laws on hate speech, and anybody who has spoken out about Islam are going to be cracked down, and they will be criminalised. Now, they want the hate speech brought in, and anybody speaking out about even those poor girls raped and murdered and beheaded in different European countries, and, you know, those two who went on holidays and got beheaded, anybody speaking out about Islam will now be done under hate speech, and it'll all go back to, oh, look at that, you know, that white wing in New Zealand killed those 49 people. Oh, you just turn into one of them if you talk about the Quran. Unless you know, so it's going to be used totally against us in all, and it's planned out to shut everybody up, because it's finally now they get the hate speech and the incitement to hate, the things that they've been trying to pull off for the last few years. Now suddenly they have the excuse that they wanted, because nobody really could kind of go, well, it's not quite right to shut people up. Like, literally after the girls were being raped in the United Kingdom on such an industrial scale, they turned around to the girls and said, for diversity's sake, you should just shut your mouth.
That was the Labour.
They want all of us to do is shut our mouths.
Yeah, there's no such thing as anti-white racism. It's only one-sided racism. You know, you know, and I heard that his Al-Qadri, is that his name, the cleric? He was on the Muslim cleric. I think he's in Blanchardstown, and he was calling for, all social media sites that are anti-Islam and anti-immigration to be removed. They should all be removed. I mean, and that of course, another commentator came in with the direct provision on deportation. There is no deportation. Deportation programs need to be abolished. You know, so that's what they're using it totally. And why is he telling the Irish people that anyone who's anti-immigration, any social media accounts who's anti-immigration needs to be removed? I mean, that sounds like a bit of like fascism there. He's coming into our country. Apparently he was in the Netherlands before that, and he's telling us now with the help of the government, he's backed up, of course, with all the left media, that the Irish people aren't even allowed to have any say on who comes into the country. It's just, I mean, it's free speech. If you are anti-immigration, you know, you should be allowed to say it. And anyway, it's not anti-immigration. We're being flooded, and there's no deportation at all. Even the illegals are allowed to stay here. It's an absolute farce. So,
well, that's exactly what they want, and now they have it with this. This is why I would definitely say it's planned.
Yeah, it
This
is
is,
planned because I'll tell you why it's planned. What's coming now downstream is even worse, and
yeah,
this is
oh
where it
yeah.
gets very serious because
They're bringing in
people.
jihad in, and now nobody's
No,
going to
but
be allowed
I'm not.
to object to jihadis coming into their country because
Yeah,
it
well,
could be
that's
Islamophobia. It's like those jihadis killed and named and tortured Christians, but you're not going to be allowed to say that. And we
no,
even
we're
having this conversation now will be in danger. Even if you're talking, Le Pen got charged for a tweet about ISIS, not even Islam, ISIS, and she was brought to court for for Islamophobia because she made a comment about ISIS attack.
no France
This
in a
is
bad
how
way.
bad it is.
I think civil war is going to break out in France. But I'll tell you why this all this drama is going on and why people are being groomed and there's still a lot of people there's a lot of people to wake up yet that are buying this story. But then
Oh,
there are very bad intentioned Soros NGO trolls who are ringing up, the hotels and everything where Gemma wants to do her meetings. They're trying to block it. But
yeah.
none of them had anything to say.
Bantry in court,
None of them have.
in
Yeah,
Bantry
they're
in
in
court.
battery. Yeah. But why
Shocking.
didn't they come out and give out about the young boy that was nearly murdered over in County Meath by 40 African youths?
They don't care about that. They
Problem
don't care
there,
about gang rapes. They don't care about the murder after torture after
No.
rape. Every single thing that's happening in Europe, they don't care. There's not one outcry about it. But
No.
this killing, this 40 killing, which I do believe was a plan, is going to crack down on every law in every civilization that you will not be allowed to speak about even ISIS. You will not be allowed to definitely speak about Islam. You will not even allowed to talk about the text in Islam. You will not be allowed to talk about anti-immigration subjects. You will not be allowed, or you will be criminalized. And this is part of the UN Pact, is what
Yeah,
they
that's what
wanted.
they want.
Now
They
you
want
have to wait.
a communist world government. That's what they want, where everyone is checked and monitored and 5G rays of microwave go through your body. And that's what they want. It's going to be a grid city. But the reason and what's coming behind this hate speech as well is that I've discovered now there's a site called thetricolor.com if people want to look at it. And yeah, the Irish Refugee Sponsorship Initiative is coming now. And this is different to the actual, the normal immigration, farcical immigration that we have. This is added on top of it. So it's part of the Global Refugee Sponsorship Initiative. And it's a jointly led initiative by the Government of Canada, the UNHCR, which is the High Commissioner for Refugees, the Open Society Foundations, of course, George Soros,
Of course.
Booster Foundation, and the University of Ottawa. So we have apparently in September 2016, going back 2 years, there was a UN Summit for Refugees and Migrants. And Ireland has signed up, of course, there was no discussion about it, through the Minister of Justice, Charlie Flanagan, and David Staunton, the Minister for Immigration. And only 4 countries have enrolled in this programme: Argentina, New Zealand, the UK, and Canada. And of course, we're included. Well, so we're the 5th. And as part of the membership, Ireland has agreed, in addition to our existing intake of refugees and asylum seekers, a new system would be established, which would be led by the private sector and various NGOs and lobbyists. So this is what is coming, and this is why they desperately want that hate speech passed, or they want to start enacting on it. So it would be private organizations and sponsors. They would apply to the government to bring in the migrants directly from the camps in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. And the
Jesus Christ.
arrivals, yeah, this is why I'm saying the arrivals would bypass the asylum process, going to completely bypass it, and they will be given direct housing, employment, and schooling by their sponsors.
Oh my God.
Okay, so let that sink in. So that's why all of this, you have it non-stop 24/7. People need to realize RTE propaganda news do not work for the people of Ireland. And the Irish Times, the
They're
Murdoch
going to
Times,
start
do not
arrest.
work
They're
for
going to
us
arrest
either.
me. They're going to arrest you. They're going to arrest anybody who is speaking
Well, I
about
don't really
something they
recognise
don't.
them as a sovereign government. I don't recognise the Gardaí either as a sovereign police. So I do not give my consent. End of story. So there, for the example, then you have Lismore Welcome Project in County Waterford. There was murder going on down there. It has been working with the asylum seekers at Cloney Strand Hotel since 2016, and they have recently applied to the programme. Well, they haven't told the people of Lismore that to bring in extra people from the camps in Jordan and Lebanon and to resettle them directly in Lismore. Now, Lismore is a heritage town. There is actually nothing to do in Lismore except, there's a lovely castle and there's lovely area and everything, but it's more really for tourism. You don't plonk people from Jordan and Lebanon in the middle of nowhere with nothing to do. And anyway, the people of Lismore are not aware that this is coming down the track. So anyway, so on Monday, the Lismore project, we know, but they had the meeting, and with David Staunton, and he is saying that if each community around the country does this, we can actually have 4,000 people here fairly soon, and spread around the country. Now that's in addition to the actual direct provision. That's completely separate to direct provision. This is a private sponsorship program, so people from the business sector and that would be sponsoring these people directly, and they would
And
be
what do
put
they get
directly into housing.
sponsoring?
Can you imagine? This is to collapse the middle class. That given direct housing and employment. I imagine low wage employment because half of them wouldn't even speak English. And then they would be schooled but they would be, probably dumped into Irish schools, but they would be sponsored. But this is what's happening now.
Irish
So
education. Absolutely
the
bloody shocking. I
statistics,
think they'd be putting
Italy
fucking
is
private
safe.
schools as
The
well.
statistics from the Office and Refugee Applications Commissioner show that between 2000 and 2016, that's 6 years, there was 76,547 applications, asylum applications, processed in Ireland, making Ireland one of the highest intakers of asylum seekers per head of population in any country in the EU. So at the end of October 2018, there was 37 asylum centres. I call them migrant hotels because that's what they are. Some of them are 4-star migrant hotels, like the one down in Wicklow, in 17 counties, accommodating 6,000 asylum seekers. And there was a further 5 then added onto that. So now that makes 42 migrant hotels in 18. Yeah, that's a plantation, and that's not including what they're doing now. So the Open Society Foundation, of course, which is part funding the new government initiative, part funding. I wonder that they say it's a it is not. Okay, it is a completely subversive organization funded by George Soros, and of course we know it was in 2016 found to have given illegal donations to Amnesty and breached all of the laws for foreign donations. But that money was never given. They were asked to give it back, but they went to court and everything, and they didn't give it back. So that's why now we're going to be hearing more and more and more about hate speech, because this agreement that they signed, and we're the smallest of those countries, of the UK, New Zealand, Canada, and Argentina. We're the smallest of those countries. They really do want to destroy Ireland, and Staunton and Flanagan are completely paid up to their eyeballs, I'd say, by Soros. So we are in for a
People are actually
plantation.
going to be terrified now to speak. It's bad enough they are terrified. They're
Yeah.
worried about Muslims. They're, putting Gardaí and police outside the Irish mosque. They don't worry about the Irish living in fear. We've watched week after week attacks on young girls and on killings, driving over people in crowds. We've watched attack after attack, rape after rape, grooming after grooming, and we've all been told to shut up. We've all been terrified. We don't even question if it happens. We all know it is going to happen. We all question when it's going to happen here. But now we're not even allowed to think that or even say it out in public, or we will be prosecuted. So we don't even have to worry now just about our lives, about our children's lives. But we have to worry about, we're not allowed to even worry about it, allowed to even share those worries with anybody else, or we will be prosecuted for our worries, which are real worries, because you watch week after week attack on girls. You watch girls being beheaded. European stupid girls going into a Muslim country being beheaded, and they streamline it on their phones. you watch torture, and you watch murder, you watch killing, you watch rapes, you watch young children being groomed, and we're not allowed to talk about any of it. And this is
we are going to. We're at war. We're at war, definitely. There's no doubt about it. Anyone, it's just waking up the last, I mean, it could be 2/3 of the country still asleep. And hopefully we can all get out now with leaflets and everything. And Gemma's going to issue the leaflets, and everyone in their own town distribute them, because these May elections are very important.
Yeah.
And definitely this proves.
Do you have number for her that we can put up and people get in contact, and let's just, anybody listening to this, like, she's going for elections. Now I believe she's putting it under a code, so you won't know that they're voting. So it'll be hidden, like a secret kind of way of voting. I've heard that she's put it down as a code, so people will be able to vote without the government interfering in their vote.
Right. She's definitely, she's well able for them. It's just, they can't throw everybody in jail. So people still have to speak out and use their free speech, because they cannot throw the entire country in jail. And they will try and flood Ireland. And you can see they're going to actually put them now directly in housing through this private sponsorship scheme, which is a complete farce, through George Soros, who is a subversive, satanic, paedophile globalist. And they are going to, they're in bed with him, so nothing can come of that except the destruction of Ireland as a nation state. That's really the whole idea. And I mean, even in France now, they're fighting for, I can see civil war is definitely going to break out, because apparently the beautiful basilica in Paris and Saint Denis, there's apparently 300,000 illegal migrants there, and the windows have been smashed, the stained glass windows, the organ of 200 years, there's a lot of French kings buried in Saint Denis, and it's a real declaration, a real war declaration against the French people, and they'll really blow up. I think there will be blood on the street. That's what they want, people. That's what they want.
Like ours.
They are trying to make it blow up, because then they can declare martial law, and then they can bring in their EU army, or
I think they're going to bring that in anyway after Brexit into Ireland. I think after Brexit, if Brexit happens, I don't know whether it's going to happen. Like, it's supposed to be on the 29th. Now they're saying they're going to have to delay it. So I don't know. It's doubtful whether that actually looks like that's going to go through.
It's just a ploy.
And I do think the British
it's a huge distraction ploy for the sheep. As we keep having to remind ourselves that the UK signed the Migration Pact. Absolutely, so what more proof do you need that this is a complete and utter distraction for the sheep, to keep the sheep in control? Because there's more sheep than there are elites. That at the end of the day. So they must keep the sheep asleep. And then this elaborate distraction, with all the media and politicians are part of, because they're actually actors, paid actors, very well paid actors, and they're willing to lie to millions of people in order to keep the sheep in, control, because there's way more sheep than elites. And if the sheep turn on the elites will be running. That's what we need to keep. We have the power, and we need to still speak up and declare when there's a racist attack against a young boy who's 14, who's nearly murdered. You need to say it. You can't be afraid to say the truth, whether they like it or not.
That. There was threats, some people sharing it, even though the mother had put it up on, and she said, share because my son was nearly murdered. I want you to find them. And she says, I give you my permission to share this. The police, the guards were saying, you're not allowed to share it because it goes under incitement to hate. Even though the mother had given her permission.
No, it's a criminal investigation. That's what it is. It's an attempted murder. And the Gardaí are not doing their job.
No, they're not, because they're black. They won't do anything if the person is black.
They're under control of a fake government, and a fake government are under control of the elite. And the sheep need to wake up. That's the main thing, is the sheep need to wake up and stand together. because she has every right, and that boy will probably never recover from nearly being dead, because they would have thrown him off the third floor, and if someone hadn't intervened, and it's an investigation.
But
And
nothing
there
will be
was
happening.
nothing I saw yesterday in the journal.ie. They won't name their race, but they sure as hell would name if it was a white.
Oh yeah, if it was an Irish
attack,
group, yeah, they definitely
yeah,
would. They
it'd be all
wouldn't.
over the front page. But they did not.
Absolutely.
They took the race out of journal.ie yesterday, or I saw it yesterday on journal.ie, and they blocked the comments, so nobody could make any comments about these gangs in Meath. And they apparently travelled on the bus from Balbriggan, or they travelled on public transport, and it was an organised attack. But they just picked someone at random, and he happened to be the young boy standing outside McDonald's or something. But they won't say the race in the newspapers when they are not white, but they will when they're white.
Absolutely. They love to say it when they're white.
Yeah, well, there you have it. There you have anti-white racism. You can't have one-sided racism. It has to be equal on both sides. So obviously, we're working with a treasonous government and a complete corrupt media.
And Gardaí.
It's clear.
A lot. Like, there's a lot. And the problem is people are genuinely terrified now. They are not just terrified of their lives, they're terrified of being able to speak or afraid of saying anything wrong. You have them
need to get together. They need to get together because there's more sheep than there are Gardaí.
Absolutely.
They need to get together. That's what they need to do. They need to, get some courage and get together and hand out leaflets and in their own area and get people awake quickly.
Well, even handing out leaflets, you can be done for hate speech and
Well,
incitement to hate. And especially after the New Zealand attack, they are going to come down on everybody and anybody who's saying anything about immigration, Africans, attacks on Irish people, attacks on anything, and not just in areas. They're going to come down. If you are on social media, they are tracking down. They have people.
The point is, if you have a government that's tyrannizing you, it means you no longer have a government. That's what you've got to realize. This is what you have to get through your brains. You do not have a government when you are being bullied and terrorized by your own government. Then that means you don't have a government anymore.
And particularly I feel sorry for the older generation because they want to talk about it, but they're actually scared. They're really, particularly the older generation who have more sense and have been properly educated, unlike the younger ones. And they know they have proper sense, and then they're like going, "This is dreadful. That's happening. Have you seen this? Have you seen that?" And they'll say it, but they'll even have to explain themselves. I'm not racist, but that's not dreadful. And it's like
there's media bullying. But listen, for an example, now anyone listening to this can go on to try, thetricolor.com, and there's a fake petition, just as an example, to ban St. Patrick's Day. So someone on InfoWar News went around. She pretended to do a fake petition that it should be banned St. Patrick's Day, and this is over in the States.
Oh, because
it's racist, white supremacist. And you know what? When you see the level of the mental state they're in, that they cannot use any critical thinking. They do not obviously know that it's the patron saint of Ireland. When she tells them they want to ban it because it's racist and white supremacist, they're very easily convinced because they are so brainwashed.
They hate the white race. That's what it's about. They hate their own race. They've been taught to hate their own race. And that's the problem. They absolutely don't even understand anything about Ireland. Most of them wouldn't even be able to tell you where, if you gave them a map, where it is. They're that ignorant. They don't even know what Ireland is. They just think it's maybe something to do with England. And a lot of them would probably think it's the same island. But that's how bad it is. It's a white country. Well, not anymore. It's not. And by the way Leo's going, it will no longer be.
It's actually a saint. They're celebrating St. Patrick and Ireland's the arrival of Christianity, whatever. It's a patron, but obviously they don't have a clue of any of that. It's just the same as they don't know much about Halloween. But to actually sign the petition, just with a little bit of encouragement from her, was so easy. They're so brainwashed, you know, and they're,
No.
I'd say, under
Do
30. They're
you ever
all
see
under.
the abortion campaign? And there was a guy who came over. I think it was Infowars. He came over, and he was interviewing them. Oh no, it was Rebel Media. He was interviewing them, and he was like going, what stage do you think it's baby? And they were like, well,
Oh, yeah.
it's a woman's body.
God.
They hadn't got a clue, and they were like, oh, what if the baby is born? Do you think it should be killed then afterwards? And really, the basic questions, they hadn't got a clue. They couldn't answer it. They were just out there cheering. They're obviously being paid. Most of these are like
But
paid.
no, but that young woman, I remember her, she actually said yes, that the baby should be killed even near birth. Like he said
Yeah.
something like 3 days before, like a week before birth. Do you think and she actually said yes. That's how badly, like, she's
Yeah.
seriously got mental in the head. I mean, that's murder. If she doesn't know the difference between murder and.
But this is how bad the left are. Was an article of an actual an abortionist doctor saying if the baby was born alive, if the abortion didn't work for whatever reason, she would snap the neck of the baby. I think that was in America. This is like the level. They just cannot understand that baby is a human, which is really, really bizarre. It's bizarre because they wouldn't do it to a 2-year-old, but they think.
Yeah, but all the people who want abortion are the very ones who are on that fertility thing on Twitter, on Twitter, I should say. They're all there now. Suddenly, it's a baby when they want. There was a program about fertility in Ireland, and they were all the same people. With the people who wanted abortion, were all on that, twittering about fertility.
It's
When most of
crazy.
them
But
voted
sure,
for
most of them
abortion,
don't even use a bloody egg because it's
it's
from
when
a
it
baby
suits them. It's a
chick.
baby. Now it's suddenly a baby. Do you know what I mean? If it's 3 months or 12 weeks, now it's a baby. Because now they're dying to get pregnant. It suits them.
It's just the left have just taken over. We are really living in the last days. And I don't know how people are going to wake up unless they take to the streets. I can't see it. I actually think we all have to get out of this country. And I'm sorry, anybody who's awake, I think we're too late. And I know.
And they have the whole world targeted. It's not just Ireland they have targeted. Like they're
Absolutely, but
going
I
to
do think
destroy Europe
Eastern
and
European
the
is
States.
probably like Eastern Europeans have got, and Austria and even Italy have got some good governments now in it. We don't have, and there's no one coming forward. There's nobody, and everyone is terrified now. After the guards have put outside the mosques, everybody will be more bending over backwards to be nice to fucking Muslims. Everybody will be bending over backwards not to say a bad word about Muslims, no matter how many more rapes, how many more killings. The next few weeks, the more rapes, the more killings, everyone's going to be zip type. Oh, can't talk about that. And they won't even start mentioning it's Muslims doing it anymore. They'll stop mentioning their names. They'll stop mentioning everything. They'll try and hook it in any way to make it look like it sound like it's a white person. And that is where we're headed. So zip
Yeah, we are
everybody
headed
up.
like that, but people need to join up and they need to wake up. And I think they're going to wake up when the banks crash. That'll wake them all up. You know,
Yeah, I don't know.
that's the power these people have. They will choose a time and a moment, and everything will collapse like a house of cards because they're all up to their neck in debt.
I think they're going to overpopulate us. It'll be too late. We will be a minority. By the time the Irish will wake up, it'll be well too late. They will be a minority. It is too late. I really do think we're heading there fairly shortly. And we're not going to be
Well,
allowed
I
to
think
speak about it.
if they bring in this private sponsorship and they're allowed to just go ahead with it and house people directly, when there's 10,000 people over that probably at this stage homeless and living in hotels.
They
I
don't
mean,
care.
if that goes ahead, I think
How
there
many
will be
Irish
actual
people die?
problems.
Like, every week, every few weeks, there's an Irish person who died because of homeless. Last week and the week before, and they were both in so-called hostels, and both found dead. Nothing happens. There's no outrage for the Irish who die. There's
No,
barely even. Nobody cares when the Irish die. There's no media. Sure, when they were screaming for migrants, that time that they put that fake boy's body on the beach, and media screaming all over the world about taking in these refugees. There was I think two families, 12 or 15 people burnt alive up in Carrick Mines. Nothing even barely said about them. They were in the caravans, their itineraries, I think 10, 15, it was a family or two families burnt alive.
Yeah.
Nothing even said. This one picture of a boy that was...
That's because, now you see, you've got to realise when you have the world's media, like for this thing in New Zealand, like for that little boy on the beach, when you have the world media on one particular subject, it means the sheep are being directed to that, to be distracted onto that subject for a reason. There's an agenda. There's a reason they want you, getting you emotionally involved in everything, because they have something coming up behind it that's going to take away your rights, either your guns or your free speech or something.
Free speech, there's definitely our free speech is gone.
It was farcical when you saw hundreds of thousands of people just walking across fields across Europe and nobody knew who the hell they were. You have to realise that if people haven't woken up already, when they could see literally hundreds of thousands of people walking
they're not
fields.
Seeing that. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't seeing that. They're not watching the media. They're watching their own soaps on TV, and that's what they see. They may look at, a diet program or whatever, but that's what they're watching. They're not watching
24/7 as well. The non-stop entertainment, First Dates Ireland, all this, X Factor stuff, and then that other talent show, that Irish talent show. You mean literally you'd never get, if you looked at all that, you'd never have a minute to yourself. You'd never get anything. And people do, do look at it for hours.
All this sort of stuff. The women are watching talent shows and God knows what. And this is what they're doing. And date shows and God knows what. And of course, if there's anything to do with a migrant, like on Toy Show or any fucking thing like that, they're overrepresented and they're like fabulous, talented children. Oh, brilliant, this diversity is fabulous. And anybody to speak out about it is just a horrible, horrible person. It's just, we haven't got a fucking chance. We don't. Our chance is to pack up, get out of the country. I think it's like South Africa.
Where would you go? Canada's under complete. He's an absolute lunatic. That Trudeau, he's so dangerous.
That idiot. No, Eastern Europe is the only place at the moment.
Well, I don't know. I think they're also, geographically, they have a history of being in a vulnerable position. So I don't think they might be better off for a little while, but they want a world government. They want
leaders that don't take any crap. And they actually have leaders that are speaking out for their people. There's none. Irish, the English.
They're too afraid of them. They work for them. You're joking. They're too afraid of them. They're afraid to get their head knocked off.
No, he has even the Hungarian Prime Minister.
He does, yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
And all the Polish Hungarian Prime Ministers came out and he said, I was the first in the EU countries to say no to the UN Pact. Then 8 came along, but he says he was the first, and he's right. And it's only he was brave enough to be the first. It's hard enough to be the first.
Yes,
and
he was. Yeah, in fairness, now he was, and he's
And and they're lucky. They are lucky. They have, and they're grouped together.
They're very lucky.
And they're grouped together. We're out in an island on our own.
We have an incredible amount of traitors. We have an incredible amount, considering our population, and even Austria or Hungary, they're very lucky. At least they have a leader.
They have him.
They're telling at least they're actually telling the public about the UN Migration Pact.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what he said, actually. He said the European people have a right to know about the lies that's been told about the UN Pact. He's just said that the other day. And he said, they said it wasn't legally binding, but about, what did he say, it was worded 90 times obligation in this contract. And he
Yes,
said your
it is.
governments are
That's the
lying
whole
to you.
intent.
And the
The
EU,
intention is to absolutely destroy nation states, absolutely remove all borders, and everybody obviously will flow into the West, and they absolutely want to destroy white Christians and be rulers
absolutely,
of
that's
the earth.
exactly what he said. He will not. He said that he will take Christians from European countries. He says he is keeping his country as a Christian country. The only refugees he's going to take is from the other European countries. That's the only refugees he'll take. And he says, and they'll need to escape because of what their government and the EU is doing to them. Now,
Yeah.
they'll probably try and send, and this is their plan, the EU army, and they've even said this, that they will bring in the EU army to bring down countries like Hungary who are racist and white supremacist countries. And that's what they will do. They will send in the
This is
army.
why you're not really safe there either. There's, you know what I mean?
They'll send in this
They're
EU
capable of starting World War III
army.
and managing it through their media. That's why you really can't trust the media, you know,
No,
because they're
absolutely
grooming the sheep. They're
not.
grooming the sheep and herding them in one direction to keep them under control.
Yeah.
The sheep now need to
I
attack.
think we would be better off because I don't see a fight here, Eileen, and I know you see a fight, and I know you see the Irish going to wake up and start. I don't see it. I think
I hope.
everybody sitting
I
fucking
hope they
duck,
have.
and I think
Mm,
we're all going to be killed. Either that, or we get up and we get out of this country fairly soon, because I don't see anybody waking up. I don't see any fighting Irish. I see them sitting down and fecking being shot at, and that's what I see them. I don't see any fight in them. I've been talking out about the dangers of what's happening in this country for over 4 years now. I've been called every name under the sun. Nobody believed me. All thought I was crazy, and they still do. The majority of Irish, and even the ones that have woken up, are terrified to actually say what I'm saying. I know they feel it, and I
yeah,
know they think it,
and
but they're
and
too terrified to say it and to even let themselves believe it. They're that scared. They're
yeah.
scared. They're
Well,
scared of everything.
they're
They're living
kept
in
busy
fear.
and they're worried. Yeah, they don't want to
They're
think
living
about
in fear.
realities like
They
that.
fear
No.
when they go out. They know there's going to be an attack. There's not anybody in this country who actually anymore says if. They say when. They know it is. They know it's going to come. They don't know whether it's the summer. Where it will be. Will it be in Dundrum? Where it will be? Will it be on Grafton Street? Those bowlers were put up. They see them, and they know what they're for.
But
They're
that's why
not
you
that.
have a treasonous government. When you have a government, you know, who's not even controlling the borders, who's not deporting people who are illegally here, who are putting people up for election who are not even, who are fake asylum seekers. I mean, you have to really cop on. Yeah, we
But
have
they
a
know,
treasonous
that's what I'm
government.
saying, Martin. They're not that stupid. A lot of them are copped up. But you know why they get into those stupid
Well,
soaps and watch all those? They are absolutely terrified. They're terrified of speaking their mind. They're terrified of thinking what they're thinking. They go through their villages and they know their villages are not safe
well,
anymore.
for the rest of us
They
who
know they're
are
putting
awake,
them on.
it's our job now to try and get them awake, you know,
But I do think a lot of them
and
are
to give
awake.
them a bit of courage. They have to get the courage, or they'll just be brought to the slaughterhouse.
But we're all going to be brought to the slaughterhouse. Even us, we will be gone first if they get their way. They'll shut us up, they'll lock us up in prison, and then the rest of them are so terrified they will shut up anyway. They will go willingly to their death.
Well, you know, we have the power of the mob, so they want to watch their step. There's
I
nothing
don't
stopping
know.
enough people going to Leinster House and hauling them the hell out.
Well, that's what we should be doing. But you see,
So
they're
I wouldn't be
terrified.
so discouraged.
How many people arrived up? People aren't brave in this country. They're willing to be killed. It's almost like they accept their death now. It's like, they're
Well,
going to
some of them
lock
are
down
sedated.
and fucking shoot them.
Yeah, some of them are sedated as well on fluoride and antidepressants and everything. So they'd want to get off all that, well, at least off, get clean water and get themselves a distiller and start drinking clean water and start getting fit and trying to, yeah, there's no point in looking at mainstream media. They're lying. So go over to the internet while we have it.
But
and
we're
start
not.
looking at YouTube and start looking
You
at.
have admitted that they will come down as soon as this May election is happening. They're trying to kill off or stop the populism, as they call it. So that this May, they're hoping that they will get full control in the EU, that they will stop online hate speech, online incitement to hate, anything that's anti-immigration, all that stuff that was in the UN Pact. They're going to take full control of that in the
I think they
EU.
will. I think we're headed for a very, serious war. Yeah. No, they want a communist, completely controlled federation of no identity and no nation states.
Absolutely. And we're
Stop the
heading there very quickly. And I think Ireland is the first to fall.
Well, Ireland is too white still, won't be for long, and too Christian. And they
I
hate
don't
you
question
people who run the
anymore.
world hate Christ. They hate Christians. They absolutely have an absolute hatred for Christians and whites. Anything to do with Christ and Christianity. So that has to go. So people need to wake up.
Yeah, I hope they do, but I don't think they will.
I'm just hoping that the Irish people still have that little bit of anger in them, that they have in their gut, that they have managed to use through the centuries. I'm hoping it's not completely dead.
Yeah, it's a crazy, crazy time.
It's getting crazier. Yeah, it's getting crazier. And I don't think this year we're going to get through this year without some major event.
No, I think
Because
there is going to
obviously
be.
Brexit has to happen. And if it doesn't happen now in 2 weeks, it'll happen in June or
It'll have to happen.
it'll happen.
The British are going to take to the streets anyway. I know they haven't woken up about the UN. I think they believe that it's not legally binding, but as the Hungarian guy, Prime Minister,
Why
has
would
said
they
they've lied.
sign? Why would they sign? It's such a joke.
Why would they? But you see, the British public don't even really understand or know about it. They were
No,
told, like us, it was legally binding.
no, but
I
they
think
wouldn't
with
sign if
Brexit, they understood what was going on. But no, obviously the people who signed it, like our government, are fucking
no, they wouldn't
traitors.
sign. I mean, Brexit was half of it was about immigration. So
Absolutely. But that's their
it's
government.
just a piece of theatre.
Not the
It's to
British
make
people
people
themselves.
believe. This is to get the sheep to believe that they live in a democracy and that they actually have a referendum when in fact it's all a mirage. It's
Absolutely.
not real. It's not real.
No, I agree with that, but I do think Brexit will. I don't know whether it will happen. I hope it happens for them. And I know you don't think it makes any difference. I think mentally for the British, if they don't get Brexit, I think it will be a huge crush on them. Mentally, I know you think that it's not going to make any difference, and possibly you're right,
No, I think
but
they're
I think
deliberately doing it.
mentally for
I think they're
them,
deliberately. I think they want to break up the EU and they want to crash the euro. And I think they want to break it up into little states, little nation states, like Scotland independent, the UK independent, Ireland reunited, all of that. And then they want to bring in the UN. And that's when the real problems begin because they will take over with a one world religion and a one world currency where everybody will be living in harmony and humanity will be bowing to their fake religion and
see,
using a cashless
I
society.
think the EU is one step to the UN. I think they want as many countries under the EU, like they did with Africa, as many countries in Africa under the African Union. And then they emerge as many like America and Canada together. They're going to try and put that as another union. They're going to put
Well,
these huge unions of continents together, and then they merge them into the EU. I think the UN. The EU is part of that. I don't
yeah, it's a
think they're going to
step
break it
towards
up.
United Nations, that's the end goal. But they were created by the same people who own the central banks. So the EU and the UN were both created in
Absolutely.
1945, just after the war, by the same elite bankers that control our pawn government and our pawn media.
Absolutely. The EU is a stepping stone. That's all it is.
Yes,
That is why
I think
Brexit
now they're
is
ready to break it up.
so much. No, they're not ready to break it up. No, because they will emerge it straight in. That's why they want to grow it as much as they can into further
Well,
and further Eastern European
well,
countries
that's
as
true. They do
far
want to
as
add more
Norway and
countries,
Russia.
but But the debt is huge. So I mean, they're starting to print money again. We'll see. I don't think they're. I think they're going to break it up and crash it all. Order out
No,
of chaos.
I
That's
think
the
it's
way they do
already
them.
there. They're going to merge as many unions into it. Sure, they're already talking about the Euro Africa alliance. They're going to merge Africa and the EU together, the EU and the African Union. That's what their plan is next, is to
Yeah.
merge the two of them together. So once
Just to
they've
make
got,
sure the middle class collapses under the weight of all that incredible funding that you'd have to have, to provide housing and education and everything for everyone coming into Europe. It would be absolutely, that's what they want. They want a horror
yeah,
scene.
this is a fucking horror. It's just going to get worse from here on here. This is a bloody horror show. We're living in a
Yeah, it
horror
is
show.
an extremely strange time to be living, isn't it? I mean, sometimes I wonder how, like, is this, like, am I here? Like, it's an
It's insane.
extreme, I never thought in my lifetime I would go
And
through
you know
this.
the worst part is Irish people, okay, we grew up in a time where we understood about war because we were lived in Ireland. For most of those countries in European had no idea. So it's like
Well, as
it's
Gemma
like
said, the Polish are coming to her because they're worried. They
well,
see
they have a
signs.
crop on. Most of the Eastern Europeans have been like Ireland. Ireland is stupid now. They're like, you
Oh,
might as well not have been through anything because they're as stupid as any other Western country. But the Eastern European countries, because they've lived it recently times as well, but they can't understand why people are now in fear, why this could happen. Now, I'm not sure that this New Zealand happened or whatever. I think it's a red flag. But if it is it so surprising? You have put these people in a war zone without even giving them any warning. None of their lives have ever. The only maybe war they saw or heard of was in Ireland. And they didn't really know where that country was. It was far in the middle of nowhere. That's the only thing that they've heard of. And they would have only seen clips of that. Majority of them have never seen, they lived in these beautiful, peaceful countries. And you're wondering now why they're suffering with some sort of postnatal trauma situation. You put them in a war zone with third world people who are raping and killing on a daily. And you told them to live through that. And then if they talked about it, that they were some way going to be criminalized. And you expected them to be okay. They were going to break. There is going to be a lot more people who breaks. I don't know whether this one was real or not, but I do think you put people in a war zone who have no idea, they didn't grow in, they weren't born into it. You forced this war on them, and there is going to be people who will go crazy. Yeah, they're going to have post trauma, and because they're in a war zone. We're living in a fucking war zone. This is worse than Northern Ireland. At least you understood what was going
It's more
on.
subversive. Yeah, exactly. You could see your enemy. And even in the times past, in a few decades, you could see, I mean, decades, 100 years, or the famine, 170 years or so, you could see your enemy. But this is insidious, it's subversive and it's hidden. And worse again, it's your own government and your own media.
Your own people, and that's the worst part of it, because it's hard to believe that your own government would do
Hard to
this,
believe. Yeah.
and your own police force are against you.
Mm.
Your own media is against you. You're
And
on your
if
own.
these banks do crash, which I believe they will by design, as they did in 2008 by design, there'll be a lot of people then who will be up for eviction. And then I think real problems will happen. Real war will, like, there'll be a lot of unrest. The farmers, everything, there'll be a lot of unrest because the banks are going to try and take it all. They want to dispossess the people of Ireland, and not just Ireland, but definitely the West as such. America, they're going to destroy it. And Europe, they want to dispossess them of all their wealth, property, and of their country as well. They're trying to remove our country from us.
Yeah.
There won't be
But
anyone
even
visiting
in
Bantry
the
Bay. I had
argument,
to write to that man, last night, or to the manager, just to say. I mean, I don't know if he pulled out. I've heard the Fiona O'Leary and all going on that they succeeded, they won. They're not hosting it. I don't know, but I had to write to him, that there won't be a hotel in 10 years from now. down there,
Oh,
and that the
it's
same
huge.
trolls have nothing to say about that boy in County Meath. It's only they've nothing to say about it when
Well, of
it's
course they
racism
don't.
against a young boy in County Meath.
Well,
Nothing.
because he's white. Well, they don't care. But what I was going to say, it was cancelled then, Gemma O'Doherty's thing in Bandon, was it?
Well, I saw Fiona O'Leary's Twitter account where she was congratulating herself on winning the war that they got the hotel to back out. Now, I wrote to them last night. I don't know if it's true. I suppose it's true. They must have got some word. But I told the hotel these people are paid off trolls from Soros, and
They're too
you're
scared.
just
I mean, they're not going to care. They're too scared. This is
scared
what
of
I'm
what?
saying. They're
Scared of
scared.
what? There won't be a hotel in 10 years if everybody is
They're
from all over the
scared
world
of
is
being
living in
arrested
Bantry. There
for
won't be any.
hate, for getting
It'll be a low.
involved, incitement to hate, all these
But,
words.
but
That's what
he
they're
has to
scared of. And now
realise.
this New Zealand attack, they will even be more scared. You'll find that
Yeah,
there won't be any hotel who will
well,
sign
they
up because
closed
they're
the hotel
terrified that they
in
will be
10
used.
years.
Oh, that hotel is a hate speech hotel.
But it won't be a hotel in 10 years because
I know
everybody
that.
will be
You know
multicultural.
that. And
Nobody
at the
will be
moment,
visiting.
yeah, but they don't understand that. All
Well,
they
that's
see
why I
is
wrote.
their little jobs and their lives, and they are terrified. That's what I'm saying. The majority of Irish people are terrified. Even, I think, it comes to a point where now if a place got blown up in Ireland or loads of kids got murdered like they have in England or groomed like they were in United Kingdom, 1 million to 3 million young girls gang groomed. I think we are in the same situation where the Irish would be terrified to speak even about their own daughters being groomed.
People who are very angry about, the mosques and everything growing. They'd never agreed to those mosques. They don't want Islam in Ireland. A lot of people don't want Islam. But then,
They're
no,
angry, but where are they? They need to be outside the government house, going out. Taoiseach, get them out. Now, we need to be all on the streets.
well, that's why you see it's. Well, they were on the streets for a while. The yellow vests were on the streets, but you see, you have to have structure. You have to have direction. And now we have that with Anti-Corruption Ireland. At least you have the National Party. There's other options, but there's no point of voting for any of the pawns we have now. Breed Smith and all of those traitors, Zapone. I mean, get them out. Subversive little agents.
We're on our last thing. Most of those renewers and most of the other ones are scared of speaking out. They are terrified of speaking.
Yeah.
And there's
That's
no
why
point.
the sheep need to get angry.
Yeah, but we can't go into election with these people who are terrified. What's the point? They end up like Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Sinn Féin. If they're that terrified of speaking, they're no good for us.
When you think of the Land League and when you think of what they did in Ireland when they had nothing, they managed to organize themselves and get back their rights. So I mean, I know this is the age of technology, so it's much more dangerous and more subversive and everything. But
I love your enthusiasm,
people have
and I
the power
love
to get
the fact
together.
that you believe that Ireland is going to survive this.
Well, I do
wish
because I hope that other people are as enraged as I am. I'm absolutely fit to kill. I'm fit to kill most days. It's extremely hard to get on with anything in normal in life anymore because it's just impossible to ignore the amount of treason. Impossible. And I'm hoping, I mean, I will, at this minute those things are issued, those leaflets, I will be handing them out in my area anyway, and maybe further afield probably. But you do need structure. You can't go down to the customs house. I mean, yellow vest is one thing, but you have to have an organized structure. And I mean, we might be going back to the yellow vest because we'll have to haul them out at some point.
Again, thank you very much for listening on The Bon Marie Show on ITV.ie and Irish Newsroom.
You are listening to Irish News Radio and irishnews.net. Email news@irishnews.net.